You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for our first T20 2022 Cricket World Cup podcast. It was a day of panic. It was a day of panic at the tournament. Sri Lanka, they got into a scrape, they panicked, they lost. The UAE, they were playing in their first big tournament for ages. They panicked. The Netherlands, they had the easiest win in the history of Netherlands cricket thrown at them. They panicked. The only team that didn't panic were the Namibians. They played pretty fearless cricket. It was a day that started. It was a day that kicked off the tournament with a bang. I'm Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. Ross, did you enjoy day? Is it even day one of the Cricket World Cup? I'm not sure.
I think, yeah, it counts. It's all part of the tournament. It's just we just haven't got to the main event yet, have we? So this is the entree. We're at the starter stage of the World Cup meal.
Yeah, and the Geelong Oval. What a ground to hold such a prestigious.
The empty Geelong Oval.
Yeah, gosh, it was 9 degrees in the stadium. It was 9 degrees. Geelong isn't even a place. All right, not a place in the way that like Melbourne, is really close to Geelong, is a place. It's an AFL ground. Like nuts. We can talk about that. We'll talk about the two cricket matches. We'll talk about what's coming up this week. And probably some other stuff too. Ross, can you tell people how to support the show?
Yes, you should go onto Twitter right now, if you don't already, and type in @thecricketpod and go and follow us there and interact with us there. And you can also do that on Instagram, and also go to patreon.com/thecricketpod. And you can sign up for $4 a month, and you get access to the Discord. If you want a little bit more and more involvement, and then we do exclusive shows, and there's even a chance for you to be on the show with us. That's our new format that we're trying on Patreon, which we kind of do a watch along of favourite moments in cricketing history. So yeah, get involved.
Yeah, we should do another one of them soon. I enjoyed that. That was good.
Yeah, but what did we do? We did Shahid Afridi hitting loads of runs against India.
Yeah, and then we did the world's worst over with some guy from New Zealand I've never heard of. But Gilchrist was batting, and I had heard of him. It was. I can't even remember the guy's name. We watched him bowl for 20 minutes. Talked about how bad he was. 2 days later, 3 days. I don't know what it is. 3 days later, I don't know.
That's the beauty of cricket, isn't it? Yeah.
It was a good day. It was a good day at the T20 World Cup. Like a proper kickoff to a tournament. Like my initial take. I mean, we'll do initial takes and then we'll talk about the two games. But my initial take, I don't love the format. I think if you're going to do the format though, then what you want is like a colossal upset that like throws into doubt. We named Sri Lanka as dark horses. We were like, we think there's a decent-ish chance. Well, not a huge chance, but we thought that they could actually make it to the semi-final. They play the first match. They're playing against probably the second best team in their group, but also a team whose best player is David Visa.
41-year-old David Visa.
Yeah. And they get beaten by 55 runs, like handily beaten, throws into jeopardy like their whole qualification basically. And then in the second game, the team we named as the worst team in the tournament, and the team we named as the second worst team in the tournament, whoever wins that has got a genuine chance of going through. Netherlands, like with the ball, they turn up and it looks like the UAE are
Test cricket.
Well,
they're 7 for none off 3.5 overs.
Yeah, well, and then the Netherlands they literally panic. They need 113 to win. The initial thought process is let's just win this really quickly and take the points to the bank, get a good net run rate boost, and suddenly they're like, holy shit, we're actually going to lose the easiest of all time, until a man named after some crisps come in and helps them out, and they get there like literally playing tap and run for 8 overs. I think they went 8 overs, or I can't remember if it was 8 or 12 overs. T20. They either went 12 overs without hitting a boundary or 8 overs without just squeeze over the line. high drama, like a massive upset, high drama, fantastic stuff. What did you think?
I agree. Daryl Tuffy, according to Swami, is the guy with the worst over, by the way. So thank you for that in the chat, Swami. I thought the game, as you said, the game, the day had what the World Cup needed to get it off and actually get a bit of excitement here. I was chatting to some of the other cricket guys today from kind of one of the other teams that we play for in the summer, and they didn't even realise that the Cricket World Cup had started. So the ICC needs to do more about promoting this when it's not in this country, I think. But by the by, it had, as you said, had an upset, had some decent performances, had some very, very attritional and bad cricket, which is what you want to see at the same time.
Yeah.
You want to see that leveler where you're like, I could play for the UAE. You kind of want to be able to be in that position and that mindset. And it also had a record. It had a record today, didn't it? It had the youngest ever player at a World Cup in Isle Khan, I think his name is, and he fell over the boundary road.
It was him, wasn't it?
He fell over. He got out for like 5, and then went to jump over the little Toblerone, missed his foot, and crashed straight on his face. Sheepishly ran off. So, what a start!
Oh yeah, the guy falling over the Toblerone. You know that was probably the highlight of the UAE innings. From a batting point of view. Should we talk the big news first? Sri Lanka taking on Namibia. I've got some notes on this. I'll do a quick summary. It looked like early on, so watching this game, it looked like early on that our prediction that Sri Lanka's pace and seam bowling, even though they're a little bit injury depleted, that they would effectively just be a bit too quick and a bit too good for Namibia, as we saw at the last World Cup when frankly outgunned some of the associate teams. Picked up some quick wickets. At one point they were 76 for 4, and I think straight after that, actually, I think they were 76 for 4. It might have been 76 for 5 because David Visa was out for a golden duck. He reviewed one where it was obvious that he'd hit the ball, but he was like, I am the best player, so I will take the.
They came here to watch me bat, kind of vibes.
Yeah, it was a bit like that. 93 for 6 at the end of the 14th over is what I've got written down. And you're thinking this is kind of going to form here. Namibia, though, what I loved about them was how fearless they were. Like they just didn't stop. They were like, we've got a game plan and we're going to go for it. We talked about the bomb squad. One of the bomb squad, JJ Smith and Frylink, teamed up together, and from the 14th over, I think the last 6 overs they went at 10 and over, so they got up to 160 odd. Pretty decent score. Sri Lanka, their weakness, you'd say, is like consistent batting. They've got a little bit of explosiveness. They haven't really got anybody that averages over 30. They are a team of like some dashers and just guys that you still think they're massive favourites against associate nation.
Yeah.
They panicked, though, I think. And I think this is maybe where you saw their slight lack of experience with the bat. I think it's where you saw maybe their slight lack of quality as well. Probably what they should have said is like it just takes one of our top 5 to, and the rest of the dashers will have a moment. There'll be some overs, maybe a bowl, that bomb. They didn't break it down like that, though. Really panicked. There was some good bowling from the Namibians. We'll talk about that. Was it Ben Shikongo on a hat trick with his his first 3 balls at World Cup? I think it was dot wicket, and then he nearly gets the hat trick. And I think like the other big thing is that Namibia fielded really well. They wrap up the game fairly quickly. The only other note I've got down here is of the Sri Lankan batters, one was run out. I think every other player was caught. I don't think they dealt with the conditions very well. I thought Namibia really did. What were your thoughts? What were your talking points that you want to bring to the table?
So I think one here is that I know we should start with Namibia's batting, but I think what can't be underestimated here is that Trumpelman was not playing here. So Trumpelman was kind of one of their star bowlers, if not probably their star bowler of the World Cup last time they played, right? He's pulled up with a hamstring injury, yep. And Secondo gets pulled into this game, which he's not scheduled to play. And Secondo bowls, as you say, brilliantly, and and that no fear element to it, I think is great for this side. in the batting, it's a little bit tepid to start, and you would expect that as well. But again, Lofty Eaton kind of comes out and is just like, no, we need to win the boundary. Essentially, we need to kind of do this. In the middle, there was a little bit of that consolidation, which we typically don't really like seeing. But their whole game plan was around, we are going to take down some people at the end, and it worked for them last World Cup, and they're going to try and do the same thing again. So I don't think that's a bad thing.
I thought what's good to see as well from a Namibian point of view, and I think they were probably the associate nation that performed best and impressed me most at the last World Cup. Some of that though was built around David Visa having games, and I thought today, although he bowled pretty well, like the fact that he got a golden duck and still they were able in this match, and even like little things. I thought they were just so clever about the way they went around batting and bowling. Little things that sort of stand out. Stuff like Jan Freilich getting run out on the last ball of the innings. How often do you see a team like just run one there because like they want to take the not out?
Mm-hmm.
Like, even like big nations. Just take one there. He goes for a two. It's a bit of a suicide two. Well, maybe not a suicide two. I mean, it's a good throw, runs him out. And but it means nothing. Like it would have just been a bonus run for the side. And I thought they got like a lot of that quite right. As you said, there's a couple of quality issues. I still don't think they've got an opening batter. Well, I mean, pretty evidently they don't, and that was a problem last World Cup. Although the combination of Lofty, Eaton, Lecoq as the 2-3. Was a really good point. Can we talk Sri Lanka?
Yeah, we can.
What went wrong for them?
So one of my notes here is around the way in which they completely panicked around not being able to score square of the wicket. And Sap has just put it into the chat as well, and say how. Like it looked like a ground that would benefit that kind of stuff. The pitch wasn't particularly brilliant, I don't think, but Namibia managed, as you said, to go at 10 and over for a decent chunk of their innings.
Yeah,
so that means that
like
it wasn't
their last two batters, really. Like, yeah,
yeah. So it was completely on the cards. And from what I saw from Sri Lanka is that it was almost the opposite. I thought they fielded well, the Sri Lankans. I thought both teams' fielding was actually quite good on the whole. But my view is that they didn't have that plan. They didn't seem to have that role definition. And at the Asia Cup, they seemed to have that plan and seemed to be able to go out and play with freedom. Here wasn't a day to go gun for leather with that freedom. They should have been just like, as you said, like it's not the most spectacular way, but they should have Sunrisers Hyderabaded the shit out of this. They should have Pakistaned this. That's what they should have done. And all they needed to do was go, right, we'll get up to maybe 100 off of 12 overs and just sit or whatever it might be, or 14 overs, and we've got this game in the bag. And they panicked immediately. And you talk about their lack of experience. These guys have still played a fair amount of international cricket, and their lineup didn't make much sense to me as well. I know that they lost what, 4 wickets in the power play, 3 wickets in the power play, so they were already up against it.
It was 3 after 4 overs, and then the 4th wicket falls in 6.3 effectively.
Yeah, and they're slapping the ball to mid off or mid on. And you're sitting there just like, what is going on? And I just think that on a day like this, they needed to bat a bit of time and take that sting out of the game, because the associate nation was always going to come out and be like, we're up for this.
Yeah, I did. I did think that. And I think I said sort of talked about conditions in the summary I did. I think on the one hand, like it did benefit Namibia. I think it was Namibia playing in Australia is probably means their players will play near top their potential. Like I don't know loads about Namibian pitches, but I know a lot of them play in South Africa. South Africa and Australia aren't massively similar. They're both quite bouncy, both quite quick. Sri Lanka not like that. However, Sri Lanka are actually one of the few teams in the world who have played a match at Geelong Oval. Like it's not. It's with one hand, you sort of think Namibia maybe they're going to get boost here, and Sri Lanka won't. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I conditions. Let me just ask you a question. Conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that was a big factor?
I don't. I think the pitch wasn't the best pitch, but as I said, there was a big chunk of the Namibian Zibians when they were doing it. And you can't blame that. The Sri Lankans just got everything wrong today. However, they prepared wasn't suitable for this kind of stuff, and it was almost like they'd taken down, they'd reached their Everest at the Asia Cup, and we're just like, well, we're definitely going to win this. And it was complete complacency that kind of got them into this mess. And yeah, they came up against a team who just really wanted to win. And as you said, we're eking out every advantage they could. And that's what I love to see about an associate nation. They go, we don't have the same talent as these guys, but we can do all of the basics so much better. And any marginal gains we can go after, let's really try it. Because a difference of 3 or 4 runs is actually mega in a T20 game like this.
Yeah. No,
fortunately, here it was 55 runs, so no worries.
Well, can we talk about ramifications then? So Sri Lanka, they've lost to a team. They've lost badly to a team that it is quite bad for them to lost to. Like Namibia are one of the other teams. Well, they're one of the teams in the group that effectively are almost certain to beat the UAE. So the Namibia now have basically banked 2 out of 3 wins. No
by the way, I also love the fact that we are pressing the net run rate button straight away.
Well, there is a net run rate. There is a net run rate ramification here. Like the Netherlands doing what they did maybe removes the noose from the Sri Lankan neck slightly. And like straight after the game, if you looked at the weather report for Thursday, which is when the Sri Lanka Netherlands game takes place, if you looked then, it looked like there was going to be rain. It looked like there was a decent chance for washout, and that would have meant that Sri Lanka effectively had a loss and a draw for the UAE match, and Netherlands potentially, by not losing that badly against Namibia, would still go through. I think now it looks like the rain won't be such a factor. The blunt question is really like where do you see Sri Lanka going from here? Can they bounce back? Do you think they've got a good chance of getting through? Talk through that, and I want a number from prediction. Scale of 1 to 100. What are Sri Lanka's qualification chances?
So I think. So Rossfizz. So I think on this one, this is a big wake up call, and I think it's a big wake up call probably for all of the countries sitting there going, "Oh my God, we've turned up to a proper fight here." And I think the Sri Lankan team there they need to not do what most teams in this situation would do, and they shouldn't panic. They shouldn't be ripping up the team sheet. They shouldn't be throwing out the baby with the bathwater. They should be going, "Do you know what? We had one bad game." Like T20, high variance, we say it probably nearly every single show with covering T20, is a high variance game. Chalk this one up as a bad day at the office, and then go out because they have the talent to obliterate Netherlands. They have the talent to obliterate the UAE. Whether that happens or not is by the by, but they have to trust in who they have. I also think the way in which they set up their team, they need to be getting more out of their big name players, right? Rajapaksa. Again, he is an IPL superstar, and here he's been forced to come in the power play, and he's up against it, and you're sitting there going, "What is going on here?"
I don't really get him at 5 odd. I think he should be ranked at 3. But.
Yeah, you either go, your game is going to be set up around taking down the pacers, and we know he can do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay if he gets targeted with spin if you've got someone at the other end who can deal with that, and they've got enough people in this team to just about balance it out, I think. So yeah, shouldn't panic. They need to start putting their players in the difficult positions, the star players in the difficult positions, and their paces were off pace today. Really, they all went at over 9 and over against this team, and they didn't really seem to have the right bowling plan. Like the fielding was a bit strange. Like the fielding positions were a bit strange. And their approach generally just didn't make much sense. It kind of felt that they had taken their approach at the Asia Cup, and we're just like, well, this was just going to work everywhere. We're just going to go out and play some cricket. bad plan. Ross Viz is saying that they're still I reckon 60%. 60%, I reckon, is about what I think.
I'd probably put them in that ballpark as well. I think the biggest risk to them, the Namibia go and spank UAE, and then the Netherlands beat India. They can't catch up, even if they beat the Netherlands. The two. I think realistically, Sri Lanka probably fancy them bank one, like really dish a beat. And if you watched that game, the second game, I have to say, even though Sri Lanka didn't play well today, the skill of those players is quite substantially better. Skill of the Netherlands players, and I'm trying to be diplomatic with that, but that is the truth, isn't it? Like, it's like Sri Lanka just won the Asia Cup. They just beat India. They just beat Pakistan. Like, they're good.
Yeah, like my view on here is that if you look at how the Netherlands go out today, Junaid Sadiq kind of took them apart from a pace perspective, right? He's not super quick. Like, he was bowling at the stumps. If you take Kamira, that he's faster than that guy is, or faster than any of the UAE bowlers are. Like, you can cause some serious damage with that. And I also think that Tikshana and Hasaranga, again, really, really dangerous, and good spin bowlers make a big deal. And I just think, they need to be much smarter next time. We've not heaped a load and loads of praise on the Namibians as much as possible, I think, here, Jack. Like, their performance was absolutely brilliant. And I'm looking forward to seeing them in the Super 12.
Well, I mean, it looks like they'll make it, doesn't it? I mean, barring an aberration, I really impressed again. And probably you'd say without their best bowler, or at least their best bowler from the last tournament. Ruben Travelman's actually got like an IL T20 gig, hasn't he? Like, there's got a fan club. You know how hard it was to find out they had a hamstring injury as well.
Cricket has got so much to go. So that's so far. But even I said, my first thing I said, like, people don't even know the World Cup is on. They don't even realise it started. And like, just like, why? Like, the cricket boards, like the ICC needs to be pumping serious dollar into getting this stuff out, because it's embarrassing.
You market your tournament, bro.
Yeah, like, that's your job. You're an events management company. That is your job.
Don't just rely on like a bunch of Indians to watch it. Cash in that way. Actually, take some of your money and make the profile of this tournament higher. I mean, it looked a bit bad on TV in terms of the people there. There were people there for the Sri Lanka game. Lots of Sri Lanka fans. They went home. But the second game, there were 500. They'd be lucky, and that isn't good either. Let's talk about that game. It was really good. The UAE, they batted first. I think you described it as a test match. Accurate. Accurate.
I was just like, do they realise they're playing T20 cricket?
Yeah, it was.
Do you know what's happened there? Someone has gone. We've just seen Sri Lanka lose their wickets, and if you lose 3 wickets in the power play, you lose the game. Definitely, we're not going to do that, lads. We're gonna keep our wickets in hand, and we're gonna stay alive.
I thought they had the opening batter, didn't they? Wazim, who my take on this, that he wanted to enjoy his moment in the sun. Like, I've worked to get here to the World Cup. I'm not getting out. I'm going to have a nice long innings on international TV. I'm going to make sure that someone's taping it on the VHS at home, and I'm going to watch this every day. I'm going to show my grandkids this the rest of my life. Mohammed Wazim, that's 41 or 47. And at no point did he really look like he wanted to press the acceleration button. He hit
a couple of sixes.
He hit 2 sixes, 1 over. There was an amazing, like, the commentators, they kept going on, like, oh yeah, boy, Wazim, one of the strongest players on the leg side that you'll see. He didn't try to hit the ball on the leg side. he just stood there watching the ball go past like a 6th stump. Like, no, not going to take that on. Not going to try to hit that on the leg side. I'm not going to try to manufacture anything. I don't care if the boundary's only 55 metres over there. I am enjoying my day out. 41 off. Yeah, and you've got to respect that. Chirag Suri as well, 12 of 20. It was pretty tough going. And watching that, I thought the Netherlands. No, I'll give some credit to the Seamans here. I thought the Netherlands team was really good. I thought Tim Pringle, top cult cricketer. He's the new Mark Watt, I reckon.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was bowling off like 24 yards and all sorts. And he's got like a weird mullet. If you haven't seen this, and I'm assuming that some of the people listening to this show won't actually.
Mm-hmm. They've got a life.
Yeah. Tim Pringle's like quite a tall Kiwi with Dutch in there.
Mm-hmm.
Or he was born. No, he might have been born in The Hague, and went to New Zealand. Dad played a bunch of games. The pedigree there, massive unit, both left arm spin. Got like a bandage around his right hand. Feels catch the ball.
You allowed to do that?
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, that's got to be an advantage. Got to be an advantage. I think his bowling figures were 13 for 1 or 4 overs. It was all like mystery stuff. Well, mystery is probably an exaggeration. It was like quite good left arm spin with a bit of variation.
Mm-hmm.
Not very Mark Watt, but a bit. And then he batted. And he's called Pringle, and he's got this haircut. He's ginger, got specs like Harry Potter glasses, and got a mullet. But like to boost the mullet, shaved up to what, like the temple height on the sides of his head, all round the ear. So it's a strong look. Great cult cricketer. He's exactly what I want from my associate nations. I want somebody who's obviously got like loads of skills, has a huge impact on the match, that I'll remember, that hopefully we can get on the podcast for an interview or later. And also a bit weird.
There's going to be children in the Netherlands after this win having that haircut. Give me the Pringle.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, exactly. I hope the Pringle comes a look. Anyway, look, they changed 112. That is what the UAE got. I've not done a great job of summarising it.
But there's not much to it really. There is not a dearth of talent in that UAE team. Let's be fair.
I'm pretty sure, Ross, they hit more 3-4s.
So sign of this is just a cult team in general.
So the Netherlands, you're thinking that's going to be an easy win, and they bat like it will be. Vikramjit Singh, who dropped one of the most hilarious catches of all. Although it turned out not to be the most hilarious catch in the game, we'll get to that. A couple of nice cut shots. Max O'Dowd looked really good, 23 off 18. And then they I don't know, I think it was panic, or they couldn't believe the situation they were in, or some good UAE bowling, or a combination of all of those things. They ground to a halt and used up way too much time. Weren't particularly aggressive. And only their top 4 hit.
And this is that bit where the teams don't have that dearth of talent in the rest of their ranks. There is that real apprehension about almost trying to capitalise on the power play, and that is the difference you do see in the proper test nations versus some of the other associate nations. And
They got 41.
It's far, but UAE didn't. UAE didn't.
No, that's true. That is true. But I think the Netherlands did okay in the power play. It was just like panic set in, it everyone was trying to sort of play themselves in, but then the rate would get up slightly. We were talking like the rate would go from like 5 to 6, and then they would like, oh no, or I don't know. They were thinking about net run rate, did loads of stupid things, and then there was like this over with Junaid Siddiqui, who we mentioned on our preview show. We've got Sri Lanka catastrophically wrong.
Hey, look, who knows? They could end up as winners. Who knows?
But Junaid Siddiqui, we did mention him, and he bowled this over, and he got really up for it. I think it was wicket, and then Pringle hits one up in the air, and we're not talking like a skyer. We're not talking a hard one. He like goes and hits a ball off a wide line, dinks it upper, and the captain, Rizwan, runs underneath. Like, it's so hard to explain. It's just chest high, run about 5 yards, catch the ball, like drops it into his own face and then chins it into the floor, lies on the floor. Well, it doesn't lie on the floor. He immediately gets it and like panic throws the wicketkeeper. Damage is done. Pringle gets 15 off 16, and that is the kind of crucial innings. I think at the point Pringle was dropped, Winvis had it at 50-50. Had Pringle been dropped, been caught, it probably would have been. May well have lost. I don't know if you say Scott Edwards was the hero, 16 of 19. But he was there at the end, dinking and running, and the Netherlands got there. A really weird game of cricket, but extremely entertaining, Ross.
Yeah, I thought so. And this is also the bit where I quite like that the teams play at the same grounds. So on the same day, back to back on those different things. And the second game is always quite different. And they think they're going to take the lessons from the first game. And this is like Max O'Dowd bowled wicket is actually quite funny because there is no way that ball should not bounce that is halfway down. That should be being pulled for 6, that ball, and it's cleared him up middle stump. And you're just like, what if that happened to you? You'd be coming off the pitch going, "Fucking council wicket, completely shit. What is going on?"
Yeah, this is a serious thing, and we were talking about this, and we'll do the Geelong Oval bit now. Why not? Because it is embarrassing, like for cricket and for the ICC and for these two teams. They're playing at this place. Like I said, for the second game there was nobody really. 9 degrees. It's mid-spring in Australia, and the Melbourne area is not one of the hot bits of Australia, and it hasn't got a tropical climate, so it's not even like one of the places where it's effectively late summer. It's actually cold. Like 9 degrees is freezing cold. It's sort of near Melbourne. It's not really near it. I was talking on the Discord, which you can join, by the way, on a bowl with loads of the cricket chat that fingers. At our Patreon, patreon.com/the cricket pod. I was talking with Jez, who goes by Messy Jez, and people who really cricket will know him. He lives in Perth, and he was saying effectively what's happened is the ICC did bids, and the state of Victoria, state of Tasmania put a bid in, and when they'd won the bid, they got to choose the game. And Victoria, you've got lots of grounds, but the AFL, Geelong Oval, it's good, I suppose, for the economy to throw a game there like this. The fact is, though, this is an AFL ground. It's not a cricket ground. Like it's not. It's not the MCG, and it would be ridiculous to play at the MCG. But like, it's not.
No, that'd be amazing.
It's not the MCG. It's got a capacity of about 18,000, but they're redeveloping it. Like it's not even like a proper finished stadium. It just. I don't know. You've got this situation, and this is effectively where this discussion came to. It's the wrong time of the year to be playing cricket in. It's the wrong state to be playing in if you're going to play there, and it's the wrong stadium if you are going to play in Victoria. Like there's places like the Junction Oval, which is next to the MCG. Do this. I think it holds about 5,000. It would be the perfect ground in the middle of Melbourne. People would go. $20, you can go along and watch it. Even if it's cold, you can wrap up warm, and you get the tram home, can't you? Or play the grounds. And this is the wrong state point. Play the grounds, and he gave me a list: Cairns, Alice Springs, Darwin, Mackay, Townsville, Gladstone. They're all of the like slightly subtropical places where the weather's hot and it is rainy season. So you could have had the qualifiers there. Instead, they are playing where it is effectively. That's stupid, and I don't think it really added to the spectacle. It made it quite difficult for players because it is don't play cricket. That is
yeah. Even we're not going. Let's do this. Like we're going. Nah, not fancying that. And there's that bit like that is why when you're playing at an AFL ground, like it's okay sometimes to be playing on the same pitch or on the same venue, but the deterioration in the two games is quite significant, I think, in terms of what they actually got to do. We talked about in the first game, did conditions really make a difference? I think the dimensions might have made it, but the conditions were fine for the first game. Second game, not so much, and it did have an impact.
Yeah, it wasn't, from a viewer's point of view, like, necessarily a hugely negative thing. But if you were a player there and you've been working to get to this tournament, it must suck to have to play in 9 degrees where you can't, like you played when it's cold in this. You can't feel your fingers. If you're a spinner, you can't really bowl.
Maybe that's what Pringle has. Maybe he's got the old hand warmers. Maybe that's what they are.
Yeah, it just sucked a little. I thought.
And I think that bit as well, Jay. I think you hit the nail on the head there. This is a World Cup.
Yeah.
Like the associate nations get treated pretty shitly at the best of times in terms of cricket. Like the access to playing against a Sri Lanka actually doesn't come along that often, really. Let alone going to play against an England or whatever it might be. And here they have. This is the career-defining moment for a lot of these players.
Well, yeah, and Max O'Dowd, who started really well and looks like he might lead his team or to a pretty big net run rate victory, he gets a P roller. And we have to say that the conditions, the fact that Geelong, who have been using this ground to train and have had, clearly kept the grass really long, have probably been running across the square in their footy boots. Yeah? That's got to have an impact on that. Like, it has to.
Well, they might as well have played in the local park. Well, I've got more people there.
Yeah, a fun game though. There's some skillful players on show. I thought Junaid Sadiq bowled really well for the UAE.
We've got to talk about Khan. We've got to talk about him.
What, falling over?
Well, he's a young spinner. He comes in, takes a wicket. Takes a wicket. But how embarrassing must it have been, like, for him? Like, he's never going to live that down. He is now going to be on cricket memes everywhere. Like the guy is. Like, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have seen it. It's everywhere on Twitter.
Yeah,
it is literally. He's just got out in not very good fashion. And he's walking off, and literally the Toblerone to go over. He's almost like a little horse trot or whatever it might be. Catches his foot, goes straight down, and it's caught on TV. I'm not sure if everyone stands up to. Everyone kind of looks like they're concerned about him. If I was in the crowd there, I'd be laughing my head off. Like,
I think there were so few people in the crowd, they actually knew the players, so it wouldn't have been appropriate, would it? Like, the guys sitting there probably were like next to his brother or something, or his carer. He probably needed a chaperone, didn't he?
UAE and bad World Cup trip.
Any other good points from this match, or any other points that worth talking about? I mean, like it was a really good game to follow. It was tense, and there was a lot on the line. Like the Netherlands right now, they will be over the moon. They got over the line. I think it's their first World Cup win in 2016, and that's a big deal. Like they're now in a position where they could get through. Yeah, I think that's a positive. I thought their seam bowling was actually really fast.
My view on the Netherlands is that it looks like a bit part team. You can almost tell that a lot of these players don't play together quite as frequently, and it is because what you see is that some of the Dutch guys end up playing county cricket over playing international cricket because they earn more money from doing that. And in some points, you could tell they didn't have that. They're almost like the Nottingham Forest. They've signed a bunch of new people that do come in. It's like maybe people before.
This is a really good point, actually. Probably the only tactical thing I'd say on this match was that I felt like the Netherlands clearly had the batting power, or the batting players, like guys who are in their own right good batters. The UAE, not to rag on them too much here, but they are effectively a club side. Even stuff like their chat, like the wicketkeeper, could hear him at one point talking about how the Netherlands collapsed. Like, oh, how has this happened, lads? How has this happened, lads? And it was like the sort of stuff that you hear on a Saturday afternoon. Like the wicketkeeper having a massive go at his captain for dropping a pretty easy catch. That is like pure club cricket. The Netherlands are actually a little bit better than that. And I thought that they probably should have slightly defined the roles of some of those their batters. Being like, Colin Ackerman, make sure you're at the end. You're there at the end. Like we're gonna have two people who we're designating as the anchors here. And it's not acceptable for you to get caught top edging us, like trying to hit a six over square leg. The other guy can do that. Your job is to get 40 or 40 and make sure we cannot lose. And they didn't really do that until Tim Pringle and even Tim Pringle was dropped off his second ball.
And that's there's because UAE hit so few runs, they had complete control over the batting, right, as well. And that was the bit actually they should have KL Rahul'd the shit out of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
World Cup.
That wouldn't have been an issue. They should have been winning that match. Worst case in the 16th over, they won it with 2 balls to spare, and they were lucky a few times. And then they are, I think, a much more talented side.
Agreed.
And the UAE. Right, we've got a couple of questions in.
Splendid.
Different sources. We had one. I'm just going to scroll up to it on the live chat, which I thought was pretty interesting. Anna, who asked about cricket growth in associate nations like the Netherlands. We actually know the Netherlands women's coach, don't we? What do you know? What do you know of Netherlands cricket, and how is it growing, Ross?
I know next to nothing about whether
I thought you were going to at least blag it.
No. But again, this is the piece. This kind of leads me on to my point. Is around there's not enough coverage, I think, in some of that piece, and there's not the opportunities. Like when England went over to the Netherlands, and it was pretty much can England break the ODI record. It was a booze up. It was the fans going over and having that. We're going to have a bit of money into the economy, and people are going to be having a good time. But did Netherlands cricket really benefit from that? They didn't have their strongest 11 out for what is their biggest fixture that they're going to have outside of a World Cup cycle, because the money isn't there, and that level of professionalism unfortunately just can't ring true because the money isn't there. And that's not to say the Netherlands have bad players or don't have good professionals. That's just to say that the thing is that a person like Rolf van der Merwe or Ackerman or Klaassen or whoever is better getting a few £100 or a few grand playing for Glamorgan or Gloucestershire or whoever rather than going back and playing that game. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, and it's just a little bit of a kick in the teeth, I think, when it comes to that piece, and that's where the game does need to be better. There is enough money in the game, and there's enough people. Like T20 cricket, you can go and play a 3-game series over a weekend if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
You literally could fly out on the Wednesday and you'd be back home on the Sunday after that game. And actually, people would have benefited from it. People would have had a greater experience. You'd know more about the game. There'd be more coverage, and that just doesn't seem to be on the agenda.
I think that's true. I think for the Netherlands especially, there's another dynamic here in that. So the ICC does have like a development fund. They do give money to associate nations. It's not a lot of money per nation. The other thing is for somewhere like the Netherlands, it goes a lot less far than it does in say Nepal, and that is just economic reality of the globe. If you give 100 grand to, what does it buy? A couple of full-time coaches and some pads. If you give it 100 grand to Nepal, that could professionalize like their first 11. It's a completely different, maybe not professionalized 11, but like it could go a long way to doing that. So I think there's some stuff like that. There's a little bit of a cricket scene in the Netherlands. Like there are pitches, there are Dutch people that play the game. It's not purely an expat match or an expat situation like you see on like the European Cricket League. A lot of those teams are economic migrants or playing those teams. In the Netherlands, there are actually, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, isn't it? Actually, Dutch people. I'm not talking like great replacements theory stuff here. But what I mean is like there is going back sort of years playing cricket,
Mm-hmm.
and that exists, and it continues. Yeah, it would be nice if there was a little bit more loot kicked their way. I feel like England should take the lead there. Like I don't think it would be too difficult or too much of a problem for England playing a European Cup like the Asia Cup and send, even if they send some of the batters, Scotland qualifier, probably be quite an interesting. Play it in one of play it in one of those nations. They make some money. pretty easy. Right, other questions. Jack Fox says, did Sri Lanka... Jack's been on the show, by the way. Friend of the pod.
Cricket pig.
Yeah. Did Sri Lanka make significant tactical mistakes, or did Namibia just have the better 11 on the day? I think it's a little bit in between both of those things.
Yeah, no, literally, I was a bit of both. I think that the Sri Lankans completely underestimated what they were going into. You saw the complacency in that side, and yeah, it was a shell shock. Don't underestimate the bomb squad, because they know what they're doing. Might not be good enough to win the World Cup, but it will be enough to cause an upset or two. And here's one already in the tournament.
Yeah. Dan says, what's the biggest shock? Sri Lanka winning the Asia Cup or Sri Lanka losing to Namibia at the World Cup today? What are their chances of them not making the Super 12? You had them at 60% to get through. I think that's probably about fair. A couple of people in the chat said a little bit higher, 70 or 80. Also, you can make that argument, I think. I think it was a massive shock. Yeah. I think they're an okay. Got a batting weakness. But even letting Namibia get 100, like the last 6 overs, the fact that they didn't get Ryling called out, really turns the game from a match where they were probably thinking we're going to have to chase 135, 140 to, oh, we actually have to chase a score here. We've got some players.
Yeah, and I think that just comes to, again, the inexperience you talk about, but it's that captaincy, it's the input into fielding placements, and it's all that kind of stuff of playing smart cricket, and they just didn't today.
Vivek makes a point about the group sizes and how it would be more interesting if the groups were, 5 groups of 4. I agree with that. I think it would be much better if the groups of 5 groups of 4 in Australia were in the first match today. I think it doesn't matter who. And I think, like, as well, Namibia beating Sri Lanka in a match like today would have massive ramifications on communication. I think that's a really good point. And then random cricket stats, who we had a laugh about. I think we said that's a terrible name for a child. He says, "What's your ideal son name? What would you call your son, Ross?"
My second name is Leg, so we must be able to do something with that in cricket terminology. But not.
What would you name Ross's son? Tweet at us at the
Yeah.
And are you a fan of the 20? The other question he asks is, are you a fan of the 20 team T20 Cup for 2020? I'd say big time. I think World Cup wise, an expanded T20 World Cup, really good thing. I think that some of the big nations, like they're a team that can play. Like the idea that Sri Lanka are, that can be overturned. Sri Lanka literally won the Asia Cup 2. They beat India and Pakistan. They beat India. They're the powerhouse of world cricket, and I give these teams their moment in the sun. Like the format of T20 cricket is unique in cricket. It gives a little bit of randomness, or it adds a little bit of randomness. You can get upset. I'd like to see more upsets. I think it would be really funny if they beat England. It would be. I mean, imagine the viewing figures. When? I mean, let's just say when Namibia. Right, Ross. We've actually done quite a lot longer than I think we expected. It's our first World Cup show. If you're listening, watching, whatever, we will be back Wednesday lunchtime, I think, doing the live show thing with us. Otherwise, just like Wednesday with the next update. I don't know if we need to preview anything. We did a big preview show. Like in future shows, we'll talk about games coming up. What a good way to start the tournament, though.
Yeah, bring it on the rest of it. And remember that it is on. Set your alarm early if you're in England or wherever else. And watch the games. And subscribe to our show. Like it, share it with your friends as well. And if you really want to get involved with a proper cricket community for this World Cup, sign up for our Patreon and get access to the Discord immediately.
Bye.
Recording